Islam, I have a question about the Moorish American Consulate website. Has it been
grand
suspended?
Rising to the heirs. Grand rising. Today is
Come on, oh, they can do it on Saturday.
Today is March the 4th. March 4th, 1441 on the ancient moon calendar, 1440 on the ancient sun calendar, and 2021 on the Greco-Roman calendar. I wanted to start off by asking if there are any questions about anything that we have, any of the demonstrations that you're doing. If there's any way that we can assist with those, we'll be happy to assist with those. If you have any questions about any of the things that have, because we put out a lot of information in the last week and a half, you know, about how we're proceeding with moving forward. And we have it now so that we're moving into full access to the vast estate. And we want to be able to do that. It's going to be a smooth transition. The transition is really already happening. We have a few things that we're going to do in the process of transitioning to the, you know, some people call it a reset. To me, it's not really a reset. It's more of going back to what we did previously, especially with regard to the gold-backed sovereign credit instruments and the gold-backed money. That is what we're using, and that's what we're going to continue to use over, you know, because it's always been that way for us. We've always used the gold-backed sovereign money. Because there's no other money besides that. And so we're implementing now the processes by which we are going to get the supplies that we need to run the government and, you know, all of the things we need. So earlier this week, yesterday morning, yesterday, it would be noon Eastern time, we started off talking about how to begin to use the contracts that are out there, because I know some have taken contracting classes from other Moors, and I've heard just all great things about those contracting classes, and I'm very glad that they're available. And as I stated, you know, yesterday on the call, when I was working in corporate, the quote-unquote corporate corporations, I was a contracting officer also as part of my management duties. And so I know how those things work, and many of you know how they work too, as far as purchasing orders and things like that when it comes to getting government-issued things. So we're going to begin moving in that direction with regard to for example, we pulled up a contract done by a company called Staples, and many have leaned Staples, many have leaned, you know, there's not a company out there that has not been touched by a lien done by the heirs, simply because every time we lien one of them, we're leaning all of them at the same time by saying agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and any derivatives thereof, because they're all derivatives of the United States Corporation Company who we have liens as well. So we take, for example, those contracts. We take them and we put them in red in all lowercase letters, and then we use them. We're going to continue moving in that direction, and if anyone, if you have an opportunity to look at the video from yesterday, go ahead and look at it, because that's where we showed the actual contract, and how it's very, very simple for us to use them. It's going to be very simple for us to use them. especially now that we are competent to do so. You know, we're competent to use them. We know how to turn it, put everything in red and all lowercase. Welcome. Since we know how to use them,
they come out today.
Grand Rising, in the way that we know how to use them. Okay, so we want to be sure that we are competent to use them, and that when we use them properly. Okay, and we'll be putting out again how we use them. We'll be putting those out. I'm going to go ahead so that we okay, yeah, Islam. We're going to go ahead and mark it so that we can continue. Are there any questions about the direction that we're going in order to get the supplies and things that we need? Any questions about that? Okay.
Islam.
Is
it possible you can open the meeting real quick again? So I was logging on my computer. Sure. This is okay. Thanks. Islam.
It's unlocked. Go ahead, Justice.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. We want to make sure that everyone's able to get in still as well. So that is the direction that we're going in as a nation, and you know, we already know that everything out here already belongs to us, and all of the things that we're going to be, and again, we're not contracting with, you know, with fakes, because we're doing everything in red and all lowercase letters. Okay, but the system has already been set up for us to use it. It's already been set up, but we have to do that outside of capitalism, because the capitalist system is how you know, is how we got into this mess that we were in, you know, that we're getting ourselves out of. Okay, and we're out of it. You know, this is the farthest, and I'll say this because this is really important. This is the farthest outside of the capitalism system that we have been in our lifetime. So, and to me, that's quite an accomplishment for our whole nation to be that far outside of that system. And now we're able to submit that system and tell it what to do, because it is in submission to us. And that's what we're going to be doing. We said in videos previous, even last year and year before last, that we were going to begin using the systems that were put in place for us for sovereign commerce. We meant that. We meant every bit of that. And we knew that there were some things that we were going to have to do in order to make sure that everything is set up the way that it should be set up, for us to do that without being violated by fakes. And the only way to do that, and we talked about this, and I'll keep emphasizing it because it's so important. The only way to emphasize that and to do it is to be outside of that system. We have to stay outside of the system. So the termination of corporate contracts keeps us outside of that system, and normally we would do a termination of corporate contract statement. I am Sovereign, Original, Indigenous, Living Justice, Pauline Denise Ritchie, and capitis dimiutio nolo, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. No United States corporation, company, citizen, nor their agents, principals, heirs, assigns, nor any derivatives thereof has personam jurisdiction, nor territorial jurisdiction, nor subject matter jurisdiction over me, nor over any more. And we hereby terminate all corporate contracts, and they were presumed contracts because they were not ours. So we want to emphasize that every chance we get. And the contracts that are out there, this is the beauty of everything's already been done for us. Everything has already been done for us. All we have to do is put it in competent language and then use it. And competent language, again, is always going to be red, lowercase letters, etc. Okay? And then we have to know that we're not talking to the subject. We have stood the subjects up and raised them from the dead. Now they are in subject status. And so we're not really talking to them. We're talking to one another in terms of the contracting piece, because we don't have any contracts with the subject. And that's why we do them in red and all lowercase letters. And that way we can get everything from computers to conveyances, to land, to everything. And again, we're not buying anything. All we're doing is proper accounting or proper counting of that which is on the vast estate, which is governing. That's what governing is when you have a proper count of all that the estate entails. And again, the foreign hybrids have given us something to look at there, where everything, and they didn't really even give it to us. We put the system in place. And the system's been counting the valuable assets of our vast estate the whole time. It's been counting that the entire time. And so all we have to do is continue to keep it that way. And then do our counting and put it on the public record. And that's the reason why we are able to change the money system like we have done and make it a gold-backed money system. And even as late as today, the ancestors have given us even more keys on how to implement the gold-backed sovereign system of money. And it's really, again, we're not buying anything. Everything already belongs to us. We're just doing a counting of it, keeping a count of that which is on our land and its value. And that's how we know that we are, worth, an endless amount of vast resources and wealth. And the whole earth is waiting for this to happen so that we can, continue training with our brothers and sisters, because they're already here waiting. All we have to do is give them the paperwork, give them the documents, the sovereign documents, and they already know where everything is. They already know how to access everything that needs to be accessed on their parts of the vast estate. And again, all parts belong to all of us. I was just talking briefly to one of our brothers from the other Africa over there. He actually stopped me in the parking lot of the grocery store today, and he talked about the turban, because I had on my peacekeeper uniform, and he noticed the turban. He said, "We wear those. We used to wear those over in my country." And I said, and I told him that we know who we are in terms of, we're the American, the Moroccan, the ancient people. And he just got the biggest smile on his face. He said, "We are from the same root, the same root, the same root." And I said, "Yes, you are. You are my brother, for sure." And we had a good connection there, just in the parking lot, just from going into the grocery store with our flag showing and our turban, our brothers and sisters, and we are starting to recognize one another again as blood kin. And to me, that's what this is all about too. Is, yes, Islam. Ruth is our mama. Yes, she is Islam. That's beautiful. So we're going to be putting, let's see, is this light going to offset in this chart? No. let me, there's a question in the chat that's saying, is what we're doing like offset and discharge? It is not like offset and discharge. Discharge means that you can charge it later, and we're not buying anything. All we're doing is counting, a good count, keeping a good count of everything. So there's no debt. And when you talk about offsetting and discharging, those are debtor terms, and we don't have any debt. We're the creditors to all the nations at earth, and so we don't have any debt, and we're never going to have debt, because every time we give account of something, and let's just say we move 50 million sovereign credits from one count to a different count, in order to keep count of whatever it is, the property or whatever. If we were to move 50 million sovereign credits, we haven't bought anything. All we're doing is saying this land is worth 50 million right here, so let's just keep a count of that. But then whatever it is that we took from this count is automatically replaced with 50 million more, so it's endless. We have unlimited counting ability. Unlimited counting ability. Whenever something is moved, nature abhors a vacuum, and it fills it very quickly with more of the same. More credit for the creditors. And credit is not like what they said credit was. It's not that credit. It's sovereign creditor use and count of that which is already ours. That's our credit. That's what credit is for the creditors. Okay. And so there's an unlimited amount, and we can create it as we go. Anything that we need, we can just create the count for, and then move forward. There are many of us who have worked in what is called purchasing for when we were asleep and we were working for the corporate. Many of us worked in those places where you use a quote unquote government purchase card, and again, that's in all capital letters because they're not the government, we are. But that was their way of teaching us how to do what we're doing now. So they were showing us how to access the estate. Even then, no quote-unquote cash or anything ever changed hands. It was always done by purchase order numbers. And for us, we have affidavit numbers. We have count numbers. We have sovereign resource count numbers. So that is how we're going to proceed. I came across some other information today that I'll be sharing with you that there's a counting mechanism that's been in place since before 1923. Since before 1923. It's actually been in place since we were doing this previously. And it, of course, popped up on the screen, So we'll be telling you about this counting mechanism whereby we will be able to see what's moving, what's being counted when we do something. If we move, 50 million in sovereign credits, we'll be able to see that amount, that count moves back and forth to different places. Okay. And I'll be sharing that with you over the next few weeks. Once we go ahead and finish giving commands on and doing court actions on that particular resource. It's an old resource that presented itself just in the last 24 hours. And so, I'm looking forward to that part too, because it's going to be a resource that we can all use in the way that we've been looking to use resources as well. So I would encourage each one of you to go on to the GSA website. GSA is General Services Administration website, and know that everything on there is going to be put in red in all lowercase letters so that we can use whatever is on there. That is going to be one of the mechanisms by which we access all that is available to us on the GSA website, and I'll put a link to it in the chat. On the GSA website, there is land, there's conveyances, there's all types of, resources that we can use, and those resources are already in the status that they need to be in order for us to competently use them. In other words, they're already listed as not taxed. They're already, all the land and everything is already listed as government property. And we know that we're the government and no one else. We know that already. So I'm going to put a link to that website, and I'd like for you to familiarize yourself with it so that as we continue to move into sovereign commerce using gold-backed sovereign credit, that we all are moving together, in that same way. Okay. Let me go ahead and put that link in the chat. Correct, in the chat. Our ancestors, yes, we the government were not taxed. We do the taxing to the subjects if we needed to, but we don't need to do that because they don't own anything, And some Moors don't really like that response. But you can't bleed a cactus. They don't have anything. What would we be taxing? Their very shoes and socks belong to us. They come from our estate. So they have absolutely nothing to give. They don't own anything, and that's what we've been telling them, is you don't own anything here on this land. The heirs own everything. And actually, we're the heirs to everything. So, we will tax commerce at some point. If there's anything coming here that's not, that's foreign to us, we will tax that, the commerce. But as far as the subjects are concerned, tax what? I mean, if they go pick a leaf off the tree and we decide to tax that, why would we do that? It's ours already, If they're wearing clothing, where did the material come from? The Moors. So we don't have to worry about taxing them. They don't have anything to even give us at all. Nothing. They have nothing to give us at all. And so we're not even looking at them in that manner. All we need them to do is do as commanded, which is something that, we've been saying, and now we see that they are doing that when we use our sovereign Article 3 court to give the command. And so, there will be commerce from other places, from other lands that will be coming here. And those lands belong to us too. That's why everybody is registered in D.C. And that's why we were able to tax everyone already, really. When we did liens, that's taxing. When we lien them, we said, okay, nobody gets anything until the heirs get what we need. That's what the liens did. The liens are tax documents. We already taxed them out, like into oblivion, really. And so that's what this transition is all about, is us continuing in those processes. Now, when someone said offset and discharge, it's not that. What it is we've liened them. We've done sovereign Article 3 court actions. And now we can take those liens and do a universal Commercial Code 3 or a Universal Commercial Code 11. I believe 11 is just to see what the running total is on the lien. And again, that's stuff that we keep. We keep those. And then a Universal Commercial Code 3 affidavit. And again, this is all affidavit. It's not formed and it's not under the United States Corporation Company at all. These are original indigenous sovereign Universal Commercial Code 1 and Code 3 and Code 11 affidavits on Moorish government letterhead. And the Universal Commercial Code 3 is the one that we can use where we say, okay, we liened the United States Corporation Company for $100 million in gold-backed sovereign money or currency. And now we want to spend, you know, or not spend but count. We want to take into our inventory for our use from the government pile, because the government pile is all Moors, okay? And the government property, you know, there's a whole surplus of property out there waiting for us. The other nations can't use it. We're all aware of that. And so now it's our turn to pick from the inventory the things that we need to govern. And that's what we're going to be doing, is saying, okay, we have this $100 million lien. We want to get for all Moors. All Moors probably need new phones, and all Moors probably need, you know, food. Let's just say that, because that's more important than anything. Is going to be food and shelter and clothing and conveyances. And so we would take whatever amount from the Universal Commercial Code affidavit, that whatever it was filed for, we'll say, okay, all Moors, you have access to take these count numbers and send in an affidavit to whatever company it is, and you're going to do it in red and all lowercase letters, and then that company will say, okay, here's your stuff, you know, Moorish, but you have to have a Moorish ID, a Moorish American ID, and it needs to be in red in all lowercase letters, and so on and so forth. So, and a termination of all corporate contracts on the public record, and then those things will be made available. Now, right now, we're not going to make any sudden moves. Everybody just keep doing what you've been doing, demonstrating your sovereign status and sustaining while we continue this transition. It's going to be a peaceful transition. There's not going to be any craziness going on. It's going to be peaceful because we proclaim that it's going to be peaceful. And so, you know, they can just kill all that noise. All the noise that you hear out there, just tune it out. You know, we just, you know, we're just going to keep moving forward and stay focused on governing the vast estate. Okay? And again, you know, this vast estate has so much on it that it's just, you know, there's boatloads and boatloads and boatloads and boatloads of stuff that is waiting for us to do what we're doing now. But it has to come through the right channels. The channels must be sovereign and separate from the corporate. And then the corporate must be subdued like we have done. We're going to continue to subdue them and submit them. Put them in their subject status the way that they're supposed to be, so that we can take full advantage of all that our estate has to offer. We haven't even touched the surface. We haven't even scratched the surface of all that we have available to us. But, you know, those documents, name change, judicial proclamation, termination of all corporate contracts, Moorish ID in red and all lowercase letters, those are must. Those must be done in order to move to the next stage. And, you know, you can't terminate the contracts and then go and make new ones with them. That's not what we're doing. We're just taking what's already out there, and we're starting a new beginning with it by putting it in red in all lowercase letters to match our government and its sovereign status. And we know that red ink and all lowercase letters in capitis, dimiutio, nolo means no loss of status. Okay, so we're going to continue moving in that manner. Those who have them, please get your hands on military uniforms where you can put our flag on it, etc. You know, in much the same way that we've done here. We have our flag over our heart here, and and then our turban. You know, we do white turbans and white shirts underneath, and then for postmaster, you know, which depending on which duties I'm doing that day, because some days I'll do postmaster duties and other days I'll do police, law enforcement duties. You know, when we're out taking documents and delivering documents to these places, like today I delivered, I've had to put on my postmaster, you know, turban and deliver to the Federal Way policy enforcers and to risk management, okay, the corporate risk management for Federal Way and for Kent Corporation and City of Federal Way Corporation. We delivered to them the liens that we've done and the liquidation commands and the foreclosure commands. We delivered those today. And I'll tell you this, when we went to those places, Kent, City of Kent Corporation closed down like crazy. The policy enforcer station was closed. There were people inside, but not, you know, and then the quote-unquote city hall, Kent City Hall, locked, all doors locked, front doors locked, people couldn't get in. And the people of that corporation must know they can't get in because nobody was trying. You know, but I went in to open to deliver the mailing, and, you know, so I ended up putting it in a doorway because there was this sliding door there, and I put it in the sliding door, and just as I was putting it into the sliding door, someone walked past and pulled it through. So it was delivered to a corporate person to take it to risk management, notice to agent, notice to principal, notice to principal. So, you know, those places are pretty much shut down for the most part. And they're doing as they're supposed to be shut down. They're supposed to. And then as we're doing what we're doing and setting ourselves up and standing our government up, continuing to stand, the transition is happening even now. You know, so are there any? And again, even if they were to open back up, even if they did that, they can't really do much, and they know that. They've been muted. They've been muted because the real government is here, and we're speaking, and we're doing what we need to be doing. You know. So, are there any questions or comments about that? And have you noticed anything in your territory with regard to, you know, those doing business as city of this and city of that? A lot of that has been shut down, you know, and they're doing bare minimum things, bare minimum, you know, while the transition takes place. And you can start with if you want to get anything I see some things in the chat also correct as well. Justice is saying we must take lawful control of everything we created and made while not concentrating on on owning anything. The mindset for state control is not what we got educated or trained to do. Islam. Yes. There's a question in the chat that says, so are we ever purchasing things as in buying or paying for things, or is it just sovereign exchanges? The sovereign exchange system looks a lot like the purchasing and buying system, in that sovereign credits are going to be moving, and we'll say, okay, this is 50,000 sovereign credits for this, there's 150,000 sovereign credits for that. That has to happen. That has to happen. The sovereign credits must move in order for the count to say what it should be. And it has to move through the sovereign treasury. Okay. And we're setting all of that up now. We got another key in the last 24 hours, a huge, huge key that we've been looking for. Just in the last 24 hours with regard to the counting. But if you look up the word buy, B-U-Y, in the dictionary, it's going to indicate fraud. That buying things is like bribery. The word buy is in these older dictionaries, it's synonymous with bribery. So we don't have to bribe anybody. We don't have to buy anything. We own it all already. All we have to do is, as sovereign, competent heirs know what their estate is doing at all times. They know what's moving on the estate at all times. Why? Because we're signing for everything. We're autographing for everything. We're the ones giving the command on what moves and what does not move. With the lien, we stop a lot of that movement of resources on this land. We can see that. They can call it whatever they want to call it. They want to call it a crown virus. They want to call it a COVID, whatever. Doesn't matter. We don't care what they call it. It's what we call it that matters. You know. But with that, we stopped the movement so that we could get a handle on it. And say, okay, we see what's being moved and what's being claimed. And if there are any fraudulent claims, we're going to call them out and say that's a fraudulent claim that belongs to the heir. And we've done that. We've done that en masse. There have been so many liens going back and forth on this land, like magic carpets, that it's just unbelievable. Just unbelievable. I love all of that, because that was one of the processes that the Moors needed, that we all needed to know, so that we would know how to grasp the resources and pull the reins on this estate. Because, you know, sometimes it looks like it was insurmountable, that we wouldn't be able, it looked like we would not be able to perhaps stop the corporates, because they had it looking like it was such a monumental task to stop them. But it wasn't. It wasn't. All it took was all of us doing what we've been doing, which is filing liens, sending liens and notifying them, putting our liens on the public record in red and all lowercase letters, etc. That's all it took, is us deciding together that we were going to do that. Then all it took after that was us deciding together that we're going to do court actions, that our courts are the most important, most powerful, most authoritative courts on the land, on earth, period. Our courts are more powerful than the international courts of justice corporations that they have out there, world criminal courts. They can call their courts whatever they want to call them, but they're all corporate. And our courts will always be more powerful and be the real authority on the land. Always, always will be. And it's our job and our responsibility to keep that, to continue operating our courts in that manner. Okay? Because again, our courts is how, you know, our courts, you know, is saving skins around here, you know, and keeping people safe, you know. Yes, Justice, okay. I've unlocked the conference for those who want to come in. They can come in, Islam. And we don't mean to lock anyone out, but we do want to be able to get through with the least amount of, interference as possible. So, yes, I did, Justice Gio. I saw it. Are there any other questions? I would encourage you to go back and look at the video from yesterday because it shows the contract and everything. And if you will notice, the majority of Grand Rising, the majority of the companies and the corporations, once they were lean, the majority of them changed their logos back to in capitis diminutio minima. In other words, they took it out of all capital letters and they put it in where the first letter is capitalized and the rest of the letters are in lowercase. Most of the companies, once they were leaned by us, they changed their logos back to what they should have been all along, which is in capitis diminutio minima. And then we know that we're in capitis diminutio nolo. I have seen more companies, and yes, in the chat, may I get the GSA website again? There it is right there. It's in the chat, mobility. There are more companies that have gone back to the status that they should have been in, which is subject to the Moors, as opposed to unlawful corporations in all capital letters. Most of them have ditched those all cap logos in favor of the subject status logos because that's the only way they can operate on our land. So if you look at them, you'll see. Staples is one. There's so many more out there. Airbnb is another. There are many out there, many of the companies that since they've been leaned by the heirs, they went back and into the right status that they should be in. Okay, and that makes room for us to do what we need to do with regard to those, those companies. Put them in subject status and then give them some instruction, some commands. And when we give them some commands, they will do them. They will do what they're told. Because the resources, again, they were only custodians, supposedly. But we're competent to do all of that. And in fact, we are proving that we're competent. Okay. If you see their logo, that's good, Empress Portia. If you see their logo in all capital letters, lean them. And then give them a few months to go through their little corporate meeting and say, oh, I think that we should go to this logo because it's so much more socially responsible. That's the terms they're using to do what we told them to do. So if you see there's any of that still in capital letters, lean them, okay? And one thing I've noticed about that, too, is that a lot of the companies, even if you look on their sign and their sign is in capital letters, you go to their website and you'll see in capitis diminutio minima on the website, where they've made the changes on the website and now they're going to have to go back and fix those signs and put them in subject status because he said. Okay? So, or if you look at their quote-unquote incorporation papers, it'll be in capitis diminutio minima. So, yes, in the chat, the COVID cover is starting to come off as we start standing up the people again. Truth. Truth. We're not having any issues with that whole mass situation here, especially after the demonstrations that were done over the last couple of weeks where the detainment was happening, and we did court actions there that just, I mean, who knew that we had that much authority and power. And when I say power, I mean where law is concerned, because, you know, sometimes people will say, oh, y'all are just power hungry. No, it's not. It's none of that. We're not hungry for anything, because our state has everything on it already. So that's not the issue. The issue is they're subjects, and they need to be in subject status. And, you know, I'm grateful to the ancestors for letting us see that, letting us witness them being in subject status and doing as commanded by the heirs. But that's, you know, that comes from not compromising at all. No compromise. None whatsoever. So are there any other questions or comments? I am noticing that the COVID cover is, you know, is coming off, and they're starting to, you know, some of them are saying that they're, you know, the people are, the people are just tired, so we're just going to take that, you know, whatever. I don't, like we said, we don't care what they call it. We know what it is. We already know what it is. So, any questions, comments, anything that you're noticing in the territories as well? You can just start there.
Islam. It's not yet, babe. What I noticed when I was down in the Carolina area, I was traveling down through there, and I noticed a lot of the corporations are shutting down. So it's starting to look like a ghost town in certain little country areas. You got to kind of be vigilant of what's really going on. There's a lot of stuff happening, and we don't really see it until we get out and start traveling.
Yes.
I yield the floor.
I'm glad you said that, Nobility, because I'm going to put a link to a link to a story. To a story that just came out. I believe it was either yesterday. Here it is. There's several of them. But I really want you to see some of these stories. Here, I'm going to put one in the chat. A link in the chat to one of them. That's happening in this territory. And there are several stories to this, you know, that speak to this in the newspaper here. They're finally starting to tell the truth. The Seattle Times did a story about, they're asking what's going to happen to all the empty office hours when COVID-19 ends. Because downtown Seattle reservation territory, they're having to get out of the way. Now, it might look like, oh, this is important, because I was wondering about this, and I'm not sure if any of you were wondering about it too, but it looks like when we see the downtown or downtown areas of our territory, of our, you know, in our territory, when we see those empty spaces and things like that, and we think to ourselves, well, you know, what are we going to do with all that space? There's not that many of us. We might think that there's not that many of us. But if you go back and look at some of the photos of the Moors dressed in all white back in the 1920s and 1910s, and, you know, back then, there were so many of us all over the place that it was just unbelievable. That is going to happen again. There's going to be an explosion of our people. A lot of the empresses are going to be giving birth back to back to back to back to back, and we're excited about that. I'm overjoyed to even know that that's already starting to happen. And then there's going to be more coming from other places to do business here. So we don't have to worry about who's going to use all that space. Some more, we got it. We got it. We got it. Yes. Yes, Islam, Empress in the chat, Empress Portia, you know, the vaccines are just going to put those who need to be inoculated, it's going to inoculate them. And they're going to peacefully be dormant and docile. That's what vaccines are for. Inoculate means to make it so you can't see. And some of them can see as much as we can because they know our science. Almost as much as we can. Not as much as we can, but they can see a lot because they only have one way to see things, whereas we have millions of ways to see things. But, you know, some of them, if they're not inoculated from what they see, they'll jump off a building. And we'll have them jumping off buildings all over the place. And, you know, I don't know about you all, but I don't need my areas to see a bunch of them jumping off of buildings all over the place. So they just inoculate them so they can't really, you know, see what's really happening. They know what's happening the same way we can see what's happening. And then I'm not sure. In fact, I am sure. I don't know why I even said I'm not, because I am. I know that inoculations don't work the same for us as they do for them. They don't work the same. We're not made the same. And that's why many of us got inoculations when we were little, so that we would not see what we're seeing now. But we would have been 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 years old, knowing that things are not right, knowing that we're the heirs, and then we would have been bucking the system. They didn't need us doing that at 7 and 8 years old, you know. So that's why we don't do vaccines, and our heirs won't do them either. Our heirs will be able to see, and there's going to be an explosion of heirs who can see. So we don't have to worry about who's going to use the space. We're going to use it, all of it. Our state is so vast that we're all going to, there's room enough for all of us, every one of us, to have more than enough. So we don't have to go back and forth and, you know, fuss and argue over things. And something tells me that we never really did that anyway. I think that this was all a test of, you know, of us standing. But there's no way we could argue back and forth knowing what we know about each other. No way. Once you get to see as much as we on this call and those listening to the call can see, when you can see this much, you're not going to argue back and forth about things because you will be able to see that this estate is growing every day. With every heir that's born, the estate has just grown by a multiplicity, size-wise and quantity-wise and quality-wise. You know, so, yes, in the chat, Islam to that. Islam to all of that. If you would like for me to go back over the contracting piece once more, I can do that right now. If you'd like for me to just give a quick review from yesterday, from what we talked about yesterday, I can pull up that contract so that you can see it and see how we're going to do it. The Moors are encouraged to begin using that system simply because it's our system. It must be done in red and all lowercase letters, and you must have terminated all corporate contracts, and you must be a Moorish American national in order for that to happen. And you have to be able to do liens and court actions. Because, and here I'll go ahead and pull that, the one contract up. See, I think I had it posted on my page, so I can put it up, you know. Yes. I'll go ahead and put the link to it in the chat also, to the document, so that we can start getting some office products and things like that. Let's just take a look here. Okay. Yes, a moment.
Islam.
Islam.
Oh, okay, I was just making sure that you're still there.
Islam. I'm actually having to sign back in so that I could put something in the chat. I want to put this link in the chat. There it is. Okay. Just one moment. Okay. The link is in the chat. The link is in the chat for the contract information. And all we're going to do is put it in red and all lowercase letters so that we can begin using, so that we can get the pricing and all of that on whatever the contract is for office products or whatever it is that we're going to be needing. And again, the the GSA website has, you know, it has everything that we could possibly imagine, and everything is going to be routed through there. Everything is going to be routed through there because we are the government, and we are the law, you know. And so that's how we're going to access all that already belongs to us. Okay, and we'll be talking more about that as we get more information put on paper by affidavit, you know, in affidavit form. Okay, and I believe that is it. Are there any questions about that process? Whether, and I'm pretty sure that everyone is going to have, you know, those who have done competent liens and things like that. If you've done them, it's going to be easier for you to use the system and get the response that you're looking for if you are competent at liens and if you're competent at court action. Okay. That's going to be our best bet in terms of accessing all that belongs to us. Go to the GSA website. This is just a suggestion, and I would encourage each one to do it. Go there and just look at the inventory. There's so many things that we need, and here's the thing. The more we start to use our sovereign status that way, we will find out that all of the ones doing business on our land have the contract numbers already in place, that when we put them in red in all lowercase letters, we can order anything, and when I say anything, I mean anything, because there's a surplus of everything out there. And that includes conveyances, it includes land, it includes everything. And those things, we don't have to worry about pulling them off of tax assessor lists and all of that. We don't even have to worry about that. We're going to do it anyway just to cover our bases. You know, and in fact, we're not even really having to pull it off theirs. We're just making sure that it's on our sovereign tax assessor as not taxed. And that we just put on the public record. Okay. And we're going to do a few of the demonstrations off that website here and acquire some things, and then we'll show you how we did it. That's the best way that I can think of to do it, is to actually just do it, you know. And everything that we do, we're doing it as right, Justice Gio. Everything that we're doing, we do it in red and all lowercase letters. And when we do it for all Moors, not just one of us, or not just, you know. Yes, we're using go back everything. Okay, go back everything. We're not using fiat for anything. And in fact, if you ask out there, only about, and this was just one of the last figures that I saw, only about 3% of the quote-unquote population ever even handle Federal Reserve debt notes. Only about 3%. The rest are doing everything by cards and paper, you know, documents, cards and documents. Okay. I see that. Justice Sterling, I see that. That's okay. So are there any other comments or questions about that? If not, we can you have the link to the contract information for the office product. Just familiarize yourself with it. Now remember, if it mentions DUNS numbers and things like that, we've leaned all of that. Okay, we've leaned all of that. So that kind of stuff does not, you know, we're not using DUNS numbers that we've not, you know, we're not using anything in black. Nothing in black, nothing in capital letters. And if you look at those numbers on there, the numbers are in black ink and they have capital letters attached to them. We just put all of that in red, in all lowercase letters, and we'll be right where we need to be in terms of order. Okay. That is all I have for today in terms of where we're going and how we're going to get the things we need. And again, just a suggestion, go to the GSA website and just look through the inventory. I saw helicopters, I saw land, I saw conveyances, I saw all kinds of stuff. And because we're using gold back sovereign credit, we're not really going to have to compete, quote unquote. Yes, in the chat, governmental surplus. That's all about us. Okay, because previously, yes, there's some of everything there. I even saw submarines. Do we need submarines, y'all? You know, previously, those companies from over, like, other places would come here. And, yes, they have just tons of that. Tons of that. Oh, and they also have lots of medical equipment. So we can get medical equipment, up-to-date medical equipment for a little bit of barely any sovereign exchange. Barely any sovereign exchange. So those are some of the things that we're looking at. Electronics for the heirs, medical equipment for healing and wellness for the heirs, things to make the heirs comfortable, etc. You know, that's the stuff that we're looking at.
Someone better give Frank another hair job.
I'm sorry?
Islam.
Go ahead, Justice Gio. I didn't understand what was being said there.
Yeah, somebody else was saying something and I didn't get it either. I wanted to just, at this point, just before we go to give a reminder to everyone that nothing comes to one without studying and knowing what they're doing. And of most critical importance right now is to look again and study that little book that Noble Drew Ali was waving around when he said, I've given you everything you need to save a nation. Now take it and save yourself. Mm-hmm. In that Circle 7, the treasures that are in there are more than everything else that I can calculate a lot. And the treasures I find in that are so far abundant. So keep that in mind when you study. And go at this from the standpoint not of owning anything, but of controlling those things which you already made or created and made. And just remember, creation and making are two different things. But if you study Circle 7, Chapter 1, you'll find that out right in there too. It's that important. And if we don't do it, well, you know, we're going to have a lot of bumps and bruises along the way. Doesn't mean we'll get stopped. We'll just get a lot of bumps and bruises. Islam.
Yeah.
Or you.
Islam, thank you for that, Mr. Gio. Empress Portia, you put something really important in the chat about those doing businesses, capital buildings, etc., etc. I've been seeing the foreign hybrids doing videos showing banners of amity and commerce coming down off of those buildings that are, you know, that used to be called capital buildings for them, where they did capitalism on the heirs, and not much activity there, not many people in them. In fact, you know, some of them are completely empty. And that's as it should be. And then when we are ready, we will go and do what needs to be done in those places. And we're ready. We're ready. We just want to make sure that that we subdue all who need to be subdued before we go. We want everybody to be in their proper status, you know, as we go to those places and begin governing from there. But again, we can govern from anywhere, which is what we're doing now. You know, some are governing from Zoom. You know, that's just how things are for us. And then many of us are going right on out into the territories, you know, and governing that way. I know that I'm every day, or at least every other day, I'm out in the territory delivering documents, putting people on notice, delivering court actions, etc. All of that is becoming just an everyday thing for us here. You know.
And going to jail too.
You know. Actually, that's about the most tired spell that they have. That spell right there is so tired and lame that it just, you know, just please find something else to use, because that one is all played out. It's all played out, and so, you know, the only ones that have to worry about that is them. The ones that say that, the ones that like to cast that spell, they're the ones who have to worry about going to jail. Because, see, we'll go if we feel like going to find out some more information. And then if we don't feel like going, we won't go. That's how this works. That's how we do. Even while we got more done when we were in there this past time than we got done outside of there. And, you know, we got a lot done outside of it too. But we got to see this time going into the jail that our sovereign authority is not to be, that's nothing for any subject to try and challenge. It's not even worth it. So, you know, for those foreign hybrid subjects who come on to our calls and try to cast that same old weak, tired self, please find something else to say, because that one is so played out and tired that, you know, y'all ought to be yawning every time you say it. Okay? And I'm not trying to be disrespectful of anyone who deserves respect, but for those who do not, please go somewhere and sit down. We're good. We're good. So, yeah, we yawn every time we hear that. So, on to more important things. Yes, in the chat, yes, all of that. Islam. Aside from that, that's about all. So take a look at the contract piece. We're going to start looking at all types of contracts, and elevating everything to a sovereign level so that we can begin using that which belongs to the heirs. If there's nothing further, be thinking about some of the things that you need so that we can specify and look specifically at certain contracts so that we can get those things as quickly as possible out to the heirs. Okay. I see in the chat one of the heirs is saying that they found their next office chair. We do need office furniture. We need computers. We need phones, communication devices. We need everything. We need access to everything. So we're going to be, if you find any contracts, bring them to our attention on the call. Just put a link to it in the chat so that we can pull that link and begin having some of the heirs look at that contract. And if you feel like you want to look at it and decapitalize it and put it in red and then present it so that we can do some study on it, please do, so that we can get the things that we need as quickly as possible. That being said, peace and grand rising. Yes, Islam.
Islam, I want to put, I'm just dropping a link in the chat right now.
Mm-hmm.
The name of it is They Call the Wind Mariah by Sam Cooke. I would strongly suggest that if you want to listen to a very high-level piece of musical tone and what is being said there, check it out. he put himself on the line to get that information out years ago. And it's real. Very, very real. You just check it out, listen in on it, without any kind, you actually feel you start elevating, literally. So I just wanted to share that. There's lots more like it too. Islam.
Thank you for that, Justice. All right. If there's nothing further, peace and grand rising to the air.
Peace and grand rising.
Long live grand rise to the Moors.
Yes.
Virginia territory.
Grand rising.
Yes.
Peace, love, grand rising.
Moors.
Peace and love, everybody.
Peace and love.
Islam.
Islam.
To the Moors.
Islam.